let's talk about, because we're the RIA, Real Estate Investing Association, right? It's all about networking, education, resources. So how's Seven Figure Flipper do that for the community, and how important is it to be in these groups of like-minded people?
Yeah, it's really important. I think everything that I've done, I didn't realize how important it was in the beginning. I thought I could do everything myself, like live on my own little island. So I would like watch videos, read books, listen to podcasts. And it wasn't, I remember going to my first like little meetup. It was in Maryland. It was in Southern Maryland in Patuxent River. And I had to drive like 30 minutes up there. And I will never forget this time. I went to this meetup. There's probably 15 people there. And I was a new real estate investor. I think I had 2 rental properties in. I was in the process of fixing my first house, like fixing and flipping my first house. And I went in there. I was a test pilot in Patuxent River, Maryland, NAS Pax River. I was a test pilot testing aircraft. And so we have like engineers in the squadron, other pilots, things like that. Drove up there, walk in, and I don't know anybody. I'm very uncomfortable. I'm not a natural networker, you know? So, but I got out of my comfort zone and I was like, you know what? I've heard that these are the places to go to see what other people are doing and just get to know some local people. I walked in, didn't recognize anybody, just started saying hello, got a little name tag, wrote my name on it. And out of the bathroom, probably after I was there for like maybe 2-3 minutes, this guy walks out and he looks like a guy at my work. And I see him from like across the room and I'm like, that's Casey. And he walks up to me and he's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I was going to ask you the exact same thing. So at that time, I was a lieutenant commander. I was a pilot, a test pilot. He was an engineer who was working on one of my projects. So he was just, a civilian engineer that helps us with the testing, writing the reports, those kind of things. And him and I were doing a test together. And he said, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm fixing a house. Like, I got this. He's like, where is it? We talk about it for a few minutes. And I was like, what are you doing here? He goes, I got 5 flips going on right now, all
Amazing.
around Southern Maryland. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He probably made like 60, 70K
Well,
at his job as an engineer. And it was just that exchange right there of I was like, I couldn't even imagine doing 5 houses at a time. And this is a guy that I see at work every single day is not talking about any of this. And we had no idea that life. And so we got to know each other. We spent a time, he started asking him, how do you find your leads? How do you sell your houses? Who works on your projects? Like I'm teaching him at work. He's teaching me on the street. And you meet people like that. So the question was, why is it so important? It's like, you never know who you're going to meet there. You never know who you're going to do business with. And Casey and I still talk on social media from time to time, and it's just, you don't know who's going to be in that room, who you're going to meet, the opportunities that are going to be there. I've done so many deals with people. I've found so many things and built so many relationships in the room at a local event, in a local RIA like that. It's so important to be local, and then national has kind of changed a lot of my mindset. That's kind of
that. And even a key thing I see, what you just said, you guys work together on a daily basis and you guys didn't know what each other do. Like real estate investing isn't like a small hobby. So it's like, that's one thing I noticed. Like I always tell people here at the RIA, be shameless. You got to tell, if you're trying to get houses and buy vacant houses, you got to tell everyone what you're doing. So letting people know what you do outside of the networking events is huge.
Yeah. So one thing on that. So I realize that now, but in the beginning, here's the problem that everybody has at the start. They don't want to tell anybody about what they're doing until they're successful at it. And it's backwards. The problem is, like, you want to have some success, then you'll start talking about it. Like, you can't have this secret identity even when you get started, even especially when you're getting started. You got to tell people what your vision is, what your plan is, what you're doing. And most people won't put themselves out there because they're afraid to fail, right? They're afraid of, what are other people going to think about me? And that's where I was. I walked in there, and the funny thing is, I was flipping my first house, and I thought I was kind of like hot stuff. I told him, I was like, oh, dude, I'm flipping this house down there. And he's like, oh, that's cool. He starts asking me, I'm kind of bragging about it. And then I ask him, thinking he's like just read a book and is checking it out for the first time. And I find out he's like this big shot in Southern Maryland flipping tons of houses. So you're exactly right. The challenge is for us is we're not willing to talk about it until we made it. And the problem is you got to talk about it to make it. And you got to meet people. You got to put yourself out there. You got to be a little vulnerable, and you got to be willing to share your dreams, even if they don't go exactly the way that you had planned.